My, my, my name is Teresa Lockwood. I reside in Vineland, New Jersey, and I'm recording this monster, actually. And it's not even based off because he just brought a whole bunch of confusion. Don't know what he's talking about, but um, I should back it up, actually. I don't know where to back it up to. So I just went through these, like, reformer, like the reformation of deformation. I came up with that term myself. I even wore it in a court, except I missed I did on a few protest shirts or whatever. But anyway, so he thinks he's talking about communion and different ideas of communion. The thing is, I should listen to the rest of this. I really don't want to listen to this guy. So, I mean, I was going to record the beginning of it, and it was really, really grieving to my spirit because, well, this guy is evil, and I'm just recording real quick. So, William Clay. And he did this bogus, like, I don't know what it was. Some kind of, like, one of their dedications, their little, pagan little ceremonies. And it's really, really disturbing because, like, this guy destroyed my children and colluded with a whole bunch of other monsters to commit hate crimes against me and persecute me for my religion. I just want to let you know, a religion can only be that of what is right. The righteousness of the people. Religion is basically the laws of the good conscience. Truth. That is against anything that is wrong. Of course, all these people sit there and call all their wrongs and all their sins. Well, I don't know. Some of these people are denying religion and trying to call religion sin. Which is a bold-faced lie. And of course you have, these, a lot of these evil, false pagan churches calling their, ignorance, false knowledge, religion. Some deny religion. And this, they relate it to that of the laws of God, as I've been condemned for teaching the laws of God and called religious. So, I even taught, when I went to this, near the end of this, when going to this church, this woman, this false minister, Debbie Givinazi, tried to, I don't know exactly what it was at the time, tried to teach me these false, ignorant ideologies that were just, like, abusive to victims. And so I basically taught Christ and what Jesus taught that was against her false ideologies. And she sits there and says, oh, well, it's not about religion, it's about Jesus. While teaching Christ to her, that was against her false knowledge, that was against Jesus. And this is very, very common among a lot of these false pagan churches who are really of the antichrist and are falsely claiming their false doctrines are of Jesus. They just slap Jesus' name on everything. Whatever they want to say, whatever they accept. And sorry, but no, Christianity has nothing to do with because you believe it and you can believe whatever you want to believe. Christianity has nothing to do with your false opinions. If it is false knowledge, it is against Christianity. Christianity is only true knowledge, okay, that sanctifies in truth, okay? So, it's not your trendy little cliches. It's just nothing but propaganda to sit there and silence victims and silence real Christians like you people do. Like I just demonstrated that those people do. From one of my examples. So, I'm going to record this guy. He's going to go through, like, people like John Calvin, Martin Luther, and nothing he says about them is true. And the thing is, I'm not the type, I don't know where he got his information. Sometimes he basically makes up stuff where he knows, like, certain facts. Or I don't think they know what I know, because the teachings that I have, I actually find within there, confirmed claims that they believed. I'll give an example when I get to it. Well, let me give an example now. He's going to talk about, claim he's talking about Luther and what Luther believed, okay? And a lot of people, it doesn't even matter if you don't even know about these people, okay? They brought nothing but confusion. They still bring confusion. And yes, the seed just planted throughout over and over and over in today's generation, okay? So, the thing is, yes, this is the Martin Luther of, like, what was it, like the 15th, 16th, 17th century. And he basically he was the one who Hitler basically quoted one of his sayings that says, burn down the houses of the Jews. Yeah. If you want to know how evil their false opinions and ignorance is, it basically came into, like, the present century. Okay? And those false ideologies that were so evil and lies against Christianity, airing their own false opinions, just lies, basically is what formed the Holocaust under Hitler. Just want to let you know that. So, especially from a different look, Hitler or Nazism, I'm going to say Nazism. I really believe that Hitler was a dumb pawn, that he was just echoing things of people and had really no clue what was going on. And obviously, if you actually read, well, not for many people just tie Hitler to the Holocaust and Nazism and all these things or whatever. And that's as far as they know. Somewhat okay. It all depends how you look at it. And from by who to who or from who or whatever the case may be. But look, this is a John Wesleyan who came later and created this so-called Methodist church, false methods. Calling it method. It's kind of like false Christians calling themselves Christian. Or in this case, we're going to record basically, well, everybody's a Protestant. Look, I'm just going to, all right, let me just touch on this. So, he's going to sit there and mention about Luther. We're going to go a little bit before that, and we'll back up a little bit. But Luther wrote these 95, what is deemed to be theses, and put it on the Sistine Chapel, okay? So, on the door of the Sistine Chapel, so people can read, okay? So, there was a refute. The main real refute of Luther was that the Catholics were basically scamming the people, okay? And like today, now I speak against the scams of these churches or whatever in a different way, though. And I actually use scripture of the scams and what they do. I'm not bouncing off of Luther or have any relation to him. This is the thing. The Catholics were convincing people that they can basically buy salvation for their deceased loved ones or whatever. And was taking money from people, okay? And so, excuse me, Luther refutes that. And basically he refutes that you can't buy your way into heaven, okay, or buy salvation, okay. So that's what the refute is that Luther came against. Now, just because Luther came against a wrong doesn't mean he wasn't just as evil and wrong in everything else. Now, his false, look, I never heard of any claim that he has made in here. I've heard a couple people make a few claims on Luther, not the things that I've mentioned. A couple things I mentioned, I read, and it all came down to, okay, what's to be believed or what, and what is this claim against another, because there was so much deception. So I go to the core of everything. What is the refute? Okay. So these 95 theses that Luther put on the door. Because I was questioning it, because it's like, okay, well, what's going on here? Because I noticed a lot of patterns that the Catholic Church basically created or used people who were either against them or caused people to come against them to distract and use as distractions. Now, this is my own original insights, and it is from things that I have read, but not what I read that they claimed. I had to read between the lines, okay? So, the thing is, it's just like, because, it doesn't make any sense, so I had to look through the patterns and the common things that are in it, but this is what happened. I read through out of all these claims, what I had to do is, it's like, okay, what did Luther believe? Okay, and what are the things that people claimed Luther believed? I don't know if he believed or didn't believe that. So what did I do? I go to this theses. There's 95 theses. What did Luther do? Luther reverted people back to the Catholic Church. This is exactly what is in these theses. I can go through it or whatever. I'm not going to do it now because I'm still sticking for time and can't set up my equipment right or whatever to teach all these things. So I'm sitting there and, okay, there's talk, and there's people who know that, there was like Luther who protested against the Catholic Church, and Luther is what people deem as like the beginning of Protestant, or from protest. And this is what I basically said when I was in this church, and I'm just like, Protestant comes from the word protest, and I've said it many times or whatever. And the thing is, I'm using it only based on words, not these people. Now, the thing is, I've heard these names mentioned. I really did not know who they were at the time when they were mentioned. They also said all these false things. And, of course, I didn't know they were false. I didn't know they were talking about. When I asked questions about what they were talking about, they never gave me an answer to anything. So I had to go and research it myself. So the thing is, I'm sitting there and I had to study the Reformation and all these things or whatever, yada, 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 yada. And it comes down to, like, people are sitting there calling anybody who rejects the Catholic Church or Protestants. What it comes down to in basics. And I'm just like, so when I'm observing, it was before that, like the Catholic Church, and trying to understand what they believed, and then trying to understand all the claims that I've heard that actually Catholics don't believe, but it wouldn't matter. They would adapt to any lie anyway. So, the thing is, but there's a perverted purpose, if you will, for the claims that they make, and it was to mirror and distort the Christian truth. So reality is that Catholics are Protestants. Doesn't mean anything if you're a Protestant. There are people who basically protest against what is righteous, like the Catholic Church. And there's people who protest for what is right against what is wrong. There are Protestants. Jesus was a Protestant. Like, Jesus refuted the falsehood of a lost people, of leaders who were basically against God. Didn't realize they were against God. For some, I would think, or whatever. But there's indication because of what was said that, like today, it's the same reflection. It's going to be the same thing, the same evils of the same people. Well, there's a lot of people who are against God and don't actually realize that they're against God. Then there are people who are against God, knowing that they're against God, but they claim God, but they don't believe in God. Okay, so yeah. I'm gonna go on. So anyway, this guy, he makes statements. Okay. Oh, my wrist. I was holding my. Oh. I'm gonna drop my phone. So William Clay. Oh, my wrist just cracked. I gotta change my hand. Oh my gosh. Oh, that hurt. So let me see. Where was I at? Okay, so he makes these claims. I'm just going to throw a few things in here that he says before I record him. So he makes these claims that he believes that all these churches are right. Oh, or all these churches are also Christian. Well, if you're Christian, you are right. You're not right because you call yourself a Christian. This is what I say time and time again. The thing is that none of these churches are Christian. Excuse me. He's gonna make these claims that, well, what I believe is, because my whole thing is, just because you believe it and you claim Jesus doesn't make you right. And the thing is, you have no evidence for anything that you say. If there is no evidence and you just make it up and you have no basis for it, it's not a faith. It's not religion. It's not the Christian religion. Okay? And, try to switch my hand back over. So, no, I'm sorry. These are the same people like, oh, I believe in all the churches. There's a lot of people who will just claim that, just to hide in, like, all the churches. And so, like, everybody will accept them. And, okay, there's a whole story. I can get behind that or whatever. Behind that. Okay, whatever. I think I'm tired. So, anyway, look. There's a Calvary Chapel. He's reminding me of Calvary Chapel because the Calvary Chapel tried to claim the same thing. And this church, and there's fraudulent Pentecostals, are all committing hate crimes against me. Right? And I just want to let you know, the claims are just like, well, if you confess that Jesus is Lord, then you're Christian. And they're abusing me and then telling me I'm not Christian by their abuse, lies, and slanders, and the only thing they do against me is sin, and then they claim they're under grace. So he's going to go all over these things about, how the Catholics claim that their Eucharist is what they call it, is the literal, like, their false communion is the literal, like, blood and body of Jesus Christ. And when this is a thing. I during my street ministry, I stopped at this store just to sit there and talk to these people in this Catholic little store across from the Catholic church, and then asking them questions. And of course, I would minister to them also and speak against them, as I do, as I went to all of these churches and did the same thing. And no ill intent, basically genuine and friendly, that I'm going to tell them the truth. And because every single one of them said all kinds of delusional things. And yes, it's true that somebody could sit there and say that a truth is a delusion. So, let me just go on. Let me just, go. I'm going to record him. I don't know where to back up to, right? I want to go record. Look, I don't know how many sections I'm going to do this in, because I'm not even finished with this, and I want to break it down into, like, so many different subjects already, and the claims that he's made. So, his communion, he makes up lies about communion, and say, well, I believe that, everybody, believes differently about the communion, and so everybody's just doing it in Christ. And, well, they're not, because they're persecuting me. They committed hate crimes against me. So let me just say this real quick, because this is a verse that I basically spoke against them, a passage to reflect them, because they were actually using this verse wrongly. So it's Calvary Chapel and other churches, and they would say this when basically claiming communion. Now, the thing is, the verse is actually against them, because they would sit there and this is what they would say. They would be like, we proclaim Christ's death until he comes, quoting this verse. And actually, that was a rebuke against people like them, right? As it was Paul's rebuke. It's like, you proclaim Christ's death, Jesus' death until he comes. Okay? So I actually corrected him. Now, the thing is, is that I do the same thing with Muslims. If I find, now Muslims are misled, they have a lot of false teachings, just like these churches, right? They are deceived, and I don't believe that everyone who claims to be a Muslim is evil. Um, but they are deceived, and and there's ones that who are willfully evil, and then there's ones who are just confused because they've been misled. So, um, so when I find for over the years when I'm refuting them, I will actually tell Muslims when they sit there, because it seems like somebody has fed them verses to actually get them to insult Muhammad. Now, I will insult Muhammad righteously, because Muhammad is an insult to everyone. It's not only that he insults people, is that he just deceptively gets everybody to insult themselves. It's a really cruel thing. And so apparently it seems like those who were against Islam fed these verses to these Muslims, and they were undiscerning, unaware, and a lot of people did not have any ill intentions. That I took, no, well, there was a lot that do, but there's a number of people who didn't have ill intentions, or know what they believed, or even knew who Muhammad was. But the thing is, they all follow these false doctrines, and it seems like somebody who is against Islam, which I am too, I will speak against them, but I will not deceive them. I don't deceive my enemies. So the thing is that it seemed like somebody deceived them to sit there and claim these passages in the Bible that a lot of people heard them commonly what they were, because they repeat them over and over and over. And I'm like, you do realize that this is somebody who basically deceived you to laugh at you, because they would sit there and say, oh, this passage is about Muhammad, right? And it would be basically a passage about a woman, right? And I was like, you do realize that you were deceived to sit there and claim that, to actually mock Muhammad, right? Now I would mock Muhammad, but only his evil. I would not manipulate an ignorant person, a naive person, vulnerable person, or whatever. I don't do that. I said, when I tell them these things, I was just like, look, somebody deceived you, and this is what the deception is. And I will tell people the truth, even my enemies. And the thing is that, they know I'm against Muhammad, but there's a few people who trust me, because I'm going to sit there and tell them if somebody's manipulate them to mock Muhammad. I have no problem with leading somebody to mock Muhammad, but the thing is, it's like I use truth against what is false. I don't sit there, and even that, so because I use truth, I will sit there and let them know that they're being manipulated to mock Muhammad in a way, and they don't know what they're doing. And the thing is, it's like I don't violate the good conscience. Now, Muhammad was very evil, okay, but I'm not going to laugh at somebody because they're naive and they don't know. I'm not going to do that. That's cruel. I'm not going to take advantage of somebody who's weaker, who is ignorant about things or misled to follow some false evil prophet. It's not going to happen. Now, yes, I'll mock Muhammad. I'll laugh at Muhammad or whatever, but I will talk about or tell them about people taking advantage of them because they're kept ignorant. They really are. And so it's the same as all these churches and these leaders who actually keep their people ignorant, just like the leaders in Islam or what have you. So the thing is that, so I told these Muslims, I said, look, this is a woman saying this about her husband, Solomon. And I'm just like, so you're sitting there saying, you're basically claiming that about a man, so forth and so forth. I'm just like, you're deceived. I said, look, I'm going to tell you right now, somebody did that because they're against Islam, but I'm going to tell you right now, Christians will not do that. We will never ever deceive or manipulate you. We're going to tell you the truth. So that's the difference between somebody manipulating a weaker or even an enemy to sit there and, if in their ignorance and weakness, and have them make fools out of them. And it's just like, why would you do that to somebody who, just because they don't know? And getting them to copy things, and you're not doing anything. So this is sort of like this guy William Clay and what he does, and I don't believe in that. You sit there and keep people ignorant, and then you manipulate people, and then laugh at them for being ignorant when you have the strength to tell them the truth. Now, yeah, I will mock this guy. I will mock William Clay, and I will mock evil people. But it's just, it's really, really, it's terrible what they do. And Christianity doesn't do that. And I told Muslims that. And Christianity is not going to do that to you. This is what we're going to do to you. We're going to sit there. Yeah, we'll mock evil. We'll sit there and we'll sit there and we'll tell you the truth. You know, but it's like, I said I didn't want to get into that. See, there goes my video. But, let me just read this verse real quick. So I actually corrected this with the false churches who are wrongly reading this. And I did the same thing to them. And, it seems like somebody deceived them. So somebody didn't know about it somewhere along the line. I don't know how long. People have been echoing this with communion. So it could have been a couple hundred years. They could have been somebody just like quoting the verse and not seeing it for what it is. But this is a rebuke. And it says, this is Paul. It says, "For I received from the Lord that which I also delivered to you, that the Lord Jesus Christ, of the same night in which he took, he was betrayed, took bread," in which, that was very important, in which he was betrayed, took bread, and when he gave, and he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same manner, he took the cup after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. This do as often as you drink it in remembrance of me." So it's symbolic. Yeah, he uses the word now I can't even say it. Embolic. Now I can't say it. I know the word. I've used it before, but I've read it before. But anyway, he used it rightly, and then William Clay is going on and speaking about other claims, about Catholics claiming it's a literal, blood and body, and other people's arguments for or against it, or whatever the case may be. It's simply symbolic. And I'm going to explain that because you know what? The way people even try to teach that could make it appear that Jesus was robbing everything from what Passover is. Did Jesus respect it? Was he false? That was just against them, period, and didn't believe in them. Was Jesus an unbeliever, an imposter, a liar? Well, I challenged what is written about if this was Jesus or not. Now, the thing is I had to come to the conclusion that Jesus, yes, that is recorded in the Bible, is the true Christ Messiah, but not their false interpretation, which is a false version of Jesus. That is not what the Jesus in the Bible. They wish, because they create a false Jesus that is evil. Because why? Because they worship the antichrist. Let me go on this. So this is the rebuke. So he's reflecting back of Jesus being betrayed. Okay? Jesus, breaks bread of the unleavened Passover. And it says, "For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death till he comes. Therefore, whoever eats this bread or drinks this cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty of the body and blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of the bread and drink of the cup." Hold on. I have to go past this because it ended at the verse. Hold on, let me go on. So I can't do a whole doctrine on this. I'm going to have to do a part 2 because it's 29 minutes. For For he who eats and drinks in an unworthy manner eats and drinks judgment to himself, not discerning the Lord's body. For this reason, many are weak and sick among you. This is spiritually weak and spiritually sick among you, and many sleep. That's a spiritual sleep, okay? So, the other use of the word is dead, but it's basically a spiritual sleep, okay? Spiritually dead. So, this is like many are dead among you. So you have to interpret that, yes, figuratively, reflecting what is spiritual truth, of course. I got to end with this because it's 30 minutes, and I have to do a part 2, which I'm going to actually pick up by recording him from the beginning. So I didn't intend it to go. I mean, there's so much to say in these things, but I got to end with that.